Good evening. Welcome to the Sewer Commission's regularly scheduled meeting for February 10th, 2021. We always begin the meetings now, since we are hybrid meetings, with the reading of this information. As the chairman of the Goffstown Sewer Commission, due to COVID-19 outbreak, in accordance with Governor Sununu's Emergency Order Number 12 pursuant to Executive Order 2020-04, this board is authorized to meet electronically. The Sewer Commission is utilizing a telephone conference line for this electronic meeting. The public has access to contemporaneously listen and, if necessary, participate in this meeting through dialing the following telephone number. It's a 603-766-5646, and using the participant code 785645, followed by the pound sign. The town previously gave notice to this public of how to access the meeting using the available telephone number with the posted agenda. If anybody has problems with telephone access, please call 603-660-5000. In the event the public is unable to access this meeting, we will adjourn the meeting and have it rescheduled at a later date. Please note that all votes are taken during this meeting will be done by roll call vote. We always begin our meetings with a roll call attendance, and we'll begin with our town finance director and assistant town administrator.
Good evening, everyone. Danielle Besor, I'm the finance director and assistant town administrator for Goffstown.
Thank you.
Lynn Pooler, sewer secretary.
Corey White, Public Works.
David Pierce, I'm a commissioner.
Tim Redmond, commissioner.
Rob Trapez, Commissioner.
Mike Irigo, Castle Environmental.
We also have people on the phone. We'll begin with Selectman's representative
Chet Bowen, Select Board Rep.
and our engineer for our consulting engineer.
Mike Trank with Oil Tanner and Associates.
Thank you.
And we also have Adam Jacobs.
And who else? We have Adam, please.
Adam Jacobs, DPW Director.
Thank you, everyone, for being recognized. Okay, we normally begin our meetings with public comment, and due to the fact that we are a remote meeting, in the event that someone would have trouble calling in, we will keep our public comment open for the duration of the meeting and close it at the conclusion of our meeting. So at this point, I'm going to open the meeting for public comment.
No one
Nobody on the
doing,
phone.
no one doing star 9?
No.
Okay.
It is due to COVID-19 restrictions. Everyone is properly seated here, wearing their masks. If you come up to the microphone to speak, and if you're unable to breathe to speak, we allow one person to take their mask down and speak in the microphone if it'd be easier. If you can speak with your mask on, we'd appreciate it, so do your best. All right, approval of the minutes of January 12th. Anybody have corrections or conclusions?
I'll move for the minutes to be approved. I read them at home, I don't have them here.
You do have them, I gave them to you in the packet. They're underneath the agenda.
I'll second the motion.
Okay, the motion's been made and been seconded to approve the minutes of January 12th, 2020. Is there any discussion on the minutes? Seeing none, I'll have a roll call vote. David?
Yes,
Rob?
Yes.
Chair votes yes. Okay, the next is, we have several new business items tonight. The first one is Woodland Village. Do we have someone here from Woodland Village? Okay. Please come up and identify yourself, please.
I could pass them out for you.
Yeah, just.
Why don't you get one of you guys to roll to the end of the table, and one of you guys sit in the middle. That'll keep it spaced out.
As far as part of possible.
Do your best.
We'll try.
Just drag the microphone with you.
I will.
Thank you.
Okay, sir, please identify yourself for the record.
Yeah, my name is Mark Palat. I'm with Dakota Partners.
Okay,
We're the developers looking to develop this project.
okay.
My name is Chris Hickey. I work for Eric Mitchell and Associates, and we're the surveyors and engineers of record for this
Thank you.
project.
So,
The set of plans you have in front of you, we met with Mike, at the time the head of the sewer department. I guess he's recently retired, but we met with him a couple times on this, and he asked us to get him the updated plans, because there have been certain changes over the course of this project. This has been here for a while. I know from the commission standpoint, you guys signed off on this before, had a list of conditions to it, and then subsequently, there was, I think, a meeting either last year or the year before, where a force main was removed, and you guys wanted us to keep the easements in place for future. So, from that, we've taken the plans, updated them according to our design, and we've updated based upon the comments that were received from Mike as a consultant. And Chris here can explain the comments and what has been incorporated into these plans and what is left to be done.
Sure. Back when Dakota first got involved with the project was previously approved back in 2009, I believe. Had planning board conditional approval, and I believe the prior applicant had continuing to keep, the approvals good. I believe they finally ran out, so we're in the process of reapproving the project, now that, we have a developer, to build it. And, as, Mark said, we had submitted plans back a couple weeks ago to the sewer department. We received yesterday, through Joanne, the comments, from Mike. And most of the comments were pretty simple drafting changes, some clarifications of things. So the plans that you see here in front of you incorporate all of his comments with the exception of two. One of them being the final slab, buildings, elevations coming underneath the slabs. We didn't have time to figure those out quite yet. And then also the pump calcs. The original pump was done back in 2009, and I believe it was designed for 86 units. We're now down to 84. So our engineer just hasn't had a time yet to update the pump calcs. So I think those are the last two outstanding items. I did email Lynn earlier today a response letter to the comments that we received via email. Yeah, you got it right there. So I can go down them if you'd like, but most of them are drafting and cleanup, but I can certainly go through if you'd like me to.
Mike, did you see a copy of the letter by chance? I'm going to save you my copy. That's their responses.
And as Chris mentioned, some of the permits were going to expire, so we just, last night had the ZBA extended for another year, and about a couple months ago, the planning department approvals was extended. As it stands right now, from Dakota's point of view, we're in the process of getting into closing on the property with the property owner. And we have our finance in place, so it's a matter of months before we close on it. We're looking to hopefully get out there and start construction April or so. Start getting into clearing, get the culvert crossing done, and continue on with the rest of the project come May with the foundations.
I just gave Mike the letter. Mike, does that letter concur with your comments?
Yeah, those were my comments, yeah.
Okay, and are they been adequately addressed for you?
Well, that, addressed on there after we do the plan again to make sure,
All right, so,
because they didn't have the profile, the gravity profile system plan, so I gotta review that as well. Correct.
And they were, those, just so you know, those were in all the original plan sets.
Yeah,
When we had resubmitted a couple weeks ago to the sewer commission, Eric had wanted to, instead of giving you 36 sheets where a lot of them didn't pertain, we cut down to the ones that just involve sewer, and we missed a couple.
okay. So, Mike, you have a recommendation for the commission at this point?
Just to recur that years ago, the old sewer commission originally had pump station, an easement for a pump station, which they do in the corner of Bog Road.
Right.
In their development. And then they had a force main running through their property that they were going to install, which the sewer commission was going to pay for, all the way to Washington Street.
back in years ago, the sewer commission decided to eliminate it and take it out of the CIP. So that's one of the things we did with the plan.
So that was designed so that the sewer that comes from the neighborhoods across the brook down there?
Right, it was designed for Hermsdorf, New Boston Road area. And sewer commission decided to do away with that, but keep the easement.
Correct. The easements are still in place, just in
Right.
case. You know, obviously, if there's a need for it at the end of the road for a pump station to go any other direction, space has been allocated for it.
Was there a double line proposed for the pump station to bypass the project to go to Mountain Road, or was that all going to be a single force main?
That was gonna be a single for,
Well, if you were going to pump from Bog Road,
yeah,
were you going to pump into the project?
no, they're gonna have, those are gonna be own separate force main.
So there would have been a parallel source force
Right,
main?
there'll be the 6-inch force mains, they're putting it on a 4.
And was the developer going to pay for that at
No.
that time?
Sewer commission's was.
Was going to pay for that.
There's gonna be dry pipe until the Hermsdorf was gonna be sewered. So the sewer commission said, they go by votes, they had a public hearing, and they sent out pamphlets with, you get a vote for the sewer if you wanted it, or you didn't vote, or say no, and the majority came back, no.
Okay.
So the sewer commission decided to do away with it.
So should that project ever go forward down in Hermsdorf, that force main could be installed through that property? Sounds to
Yes.
me like once it's all built out, it's going to be a problem to dig through that property to put a force main in.
It'd probably run along the side of the road, I would venture to guess. There probably would be some crossings, but I don't recall how it was laid out in the plans. I had to go back and look
You know,
at
some
it.
of it was up against a guardrail and stuff like that.
Yeah.
It's-
At the culvert crossing. I
Yeah, it
think.
was, like, you know, the guardrail location would have been a bad spot, you know, if you had to redig it.
But a prior commission deemed it, that they didn't think it was going to be a project, that-
No, because the public didn't want it down that end of town.
because they would have to pay for it.
Well, they would expand the system, and this probably was federal funding at the time,
Okay.
which that went, or state funding,
All right.
that went away. so.
All right, I'm good. They made a decision, not us, so we can move on.
So, yeah, there is capacity, if you're gonna ask that question. It's,
Yep.
I mean, the prior owners put in gravity sewer on Mountain Road all the way down to Washington
I remember that.
for this project, so.
I remember that.
It's just 20 years ago, it started, you know.
Well, they, yeah. I
I'm hoping to finish it now.
So do you have a recommendation for moving forward, Mike?
Yeah, I say they move forward. I make a recommendation that they move forward.
And we
Get
can,
finalize the plans. Then they'll have to, we get the flow counts, then you guys, they would get a New Hampshire sewer connection permit,
Facility district.
and you guys will have to sign off on it. Then it goes to the city, because I'm sure it's gonna be over 5,000 gallons.
so does the city have to approve this as
Yes,
well?
they do. It's on the same form, they have to approve it.
So we make sure that these folks get their approvals before they start digging and find out the city has a problem.
They have to get all the approvals before
Absolutely.
the planning board will allow them to dig.
Yeah.
They have to get everything signed off first.
Commissioners? Rob and Dave?
Because it's subject also to accessibility fees.
Yeah. Well, you do know accessibility fees are due at the time of the closing, not up front, which is,
Which I appreciate.
well, that's, just- you know, it is what it is.
It is. Nothing I can do about those things.
Mark, refresh my mind, you're doing Phase 1 construction this
We-
spring?
We're doing phase one, yes.
And what's the extent of Phase 1? How many buildings is that?
God, I want to say it was, because the buildings are fairly large buildings with the units divided up, and I want to say it was like 40-something units off the top of my head. But from the number of buildings, there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 buildings. So roughly half.
But as I remember from the planning board, you have to complete all the infrastructure prior to getting Phase 1, any COs on Phase 1.
Yeah, in our discussions with them, the infrastructure, obviously, for full build for the stormwater systems, that's in place. Obviously, the sewer connection, 100% in place. So all that will be in place. The road servicing Phase 1 with a proper turnaround for the fire trucks will be in place. You know, the other ones will be, stub outs for the next phase. that will come next. Hopefully, we'll be following up with that this summer as well. We're gearing up towards that for the summer.
So phase one will not be the completion of the entire loop road?
It will not, it will not.
Okay, I was trying to
Yeah.
remember from the planning meeting, what was approved.
Yeah, yeah, and like I said, I had a meeting with a lot of the departments, Mike was at that one as well.
Yeah.
And we went through this with the fire department, because the biggest concern was really the fire department. As long as we can make sure we get safe access and a safe turnaround for them at the end, that was the key.
All right, Rob, do you have anything?
Like,
Well, I didn't have the benefit of the whole planning board process for this project, so this is pretty new to me, but in general, it looks like you have gravity flow going around your loop, and then it goes out to a pump station.
Yes, and there's
Right.
a force main through the woods over to Mountain Road.
That's Mountain Road.
Yep.
Over to
You
Washington.
see it on the first page, you can see the overall. It goes all
Yeah.
the way through the woods here to Mountain Road over here. That's how the sewer
Right.
gets out of there. And that's where the water comes in as well.
And Ocean changing
Correct,
the
it ends
water
up being a trail system at the end of the day for the neighborhood. It connects through from one side to the other as well.
Okay, and then that pump station, I just see the note here that it's to be maintained private.
Yeah, for us, yes,
Okay.
yes.
Is that a submersible type pump station?
Truthfully, I'm not sure.
Can in the
You know,
ground.
You know, if it is, it'll be tough to maintain, I think,
Pump station on the ground.
yeah.
It's a can.
Thank you, Mike.
Yeah, that's what they call them.
Anything else, David, while Rob is reading the plan?
just congratulate Mark, you got some good press release on your development.
Oh, thank you. Was it good or was it bad? I guess any press is good press.
I recognize that.
It was in the
Commissioners went through
newspaper
this
a
with a
week and a
fine
half
tooth.
ago.
I'm not looking to reinvent the wheel.
I didn't know that, to
I
tell you the
just,
truth.
Here, you can keep this.
Thank you, I appreciate that.
All right, so at this time, we have to review the plan one more time to make sure everything is done in accordance with the conditions, right, Mike?
Yep.
And the memo from Eric Mitchell there, that you're going to satisfy all the conditions in that memo?
Yep.
And
Eventually.
if I missed anything
Eventually.
or I didn't draft it the way Mike liked it, we can work it out easily enough, I believe.
All right.
I'm fussed when it comes to drafting.
Oh,
I
me
did
too.
it too long.
No, I appreciate it, to tell you the truth.
So we don't have to actually take a motion on this, I don't believe, since this was already an approval. This was just in for,
That's been approved way
right,
back
it's been
when.
approved.
Yeah.
So, we'll just have a voice, vote here. Dave, how do you feel about this moving forward?
I have no reservations.
Rob?
I'm okay.
And I'm also okay. So thank you for coming in with your plans, and we will keep you advised on how we're gonna move forward with Mike assisting you. We have still a few things to work out,
Yep.
but, for the short term, Mike will can be your contact to, keep this thing moving to get it done.
Beautiful,
No, I
beautiful.
got your email.
Right, yeah.
So we'll get we'll get those couple things for you, get that
Yeah.
cleaned up. In the meantime, we'll get our application together for the state
Yeah.
and get that process moving along so that we can get the sign-offs.
Okay, fellas, thank you very much.
No, thank you,
Thank you.
appreciate your time.
Do you guys want any copies for yourself? You want a big set for yourself, or you?
I
all
like a
set?
big set.
Eventually, we'll need them for the file,
Yep.
but until they're finalized and all the corrections are made, save your copier and save your ink until they're all
Well, I
done.
got some, so I'll give you Mike.
Yeah,
one
give
so
it
you
to
can
me. I
review
like a big set to look at.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, the next item on the agenda under new business is the White Birch Eatery. This was a late addition, Lynn.
Yes,
Can you give us any information on this at this time, Lynn?
she just called me and asked if she could be put on the agenda. The work was moving quickly there, and that's pretty much all she told me.
Okay, so could you please identify yourself for the record?
Yes, I'm Cynthia Williams. I am the business
Put 'em over there and I'll get 'em
owner,
after.
not the property owner.
Appreciate it.
Okay, you're the business owner, not the property owner.
Correct.
Now, right out the gate, you need to know the property owner is responsible for the whole sewer fees, the accessibility fee,
Put
ultimately.
those all back on me.
Well, as long as, the billing will go to the property owner, not you.
Correct.
As long as they know that the property owner knows that they're responsible for all this.
Correct.
And you as a tenant, you have to obviously deal with them, but so as you know, the property owner is the
Yes.
person who's going to get the bill and pay the fees. Okay. So could you tell us about your business, please?
So we are 571 Mast Road, the old Chiggy's restaurant. I took that over a year ago on the 28th of this month.
May I just interrupt? Anybody else know Chiggy's is next to McDonald's, correct?
Correct,
Okay.
yes, the Little Green Mall.
Okay.
And the Ark Church was to the immediate left, a shared middle wall. The Ark has moved out, and I have the opportunity to take over that space. We are hoping to connect the 2 front rooms to add 10 additional seats to the restaurant. And then the large space that the Ark was using as their sanctuary will actually become a function room.
Have you had any discussions with the sewer department before tonight?
Yes.
Okay, good. So you do, and you are informed about calculations and such?
Yes,
Someone
they
give you
came
some-
out and they did it. Mike, I believe his name was, came out, and then he sent an email back letting me know that it would be $7,500 plus a $50 fee. I passed it along to the landlord, and he said it's my responsibility. even
That's the
though-
accessibility fee, Mike?
Yeah, I gave him an email of the flows, and we gave him, he had 213 gallons that he had left over, and I got credited. Plus the space that was a retail store at one time. It was built as a retail store at one time, and we took that flow calculations and credit to that. Plus, in addition to seats in the restaurant, you had to buy flow.
Right.
And we told Ray that way back when Chickies went in, that if you do anything else, he's going to have to purchase flow. And they're expanded, they want to expand, so
So they received,
buy it.
they received all the credits from the prior business's use, and then
Right.
you did the new calculation for the additional seating
Yeah.
space. Okay, thank you. All right, commissioners?
Cynthia, I missed it. What's the total seating capacity with your 10 new seats?
So the restaurant will hopefully be up to 54 seats, and then the function room will be no more than 40.
Those are the numbers you received, Mike?
yeah.
Okay, good.
Was Lynn copied on that email, Mike, with the flow calculations?
No.
Or could she be?
If I still have it,
I'll send it to you.
if I,
Oh, she's gonna send it to me.
Okay.
yes, yeah, because I don't know if I can
Okay,
get back
thank
into
you.
my emails from the town.
You just do it?
Yeah.
Oh, wow, you're quick.
Okay.
Oh, it
Thank
was-
you very much.
Thank you.
I'll look tomorrow if I have it. I might
Just
have
sent it
copied
to me.
it. Oh, you're gonna send it to her?
already sent it,
Okay.
So I guess you're here for the question, is there enough flow to open your business? I guess that's the first thing we're starting with, correct? Mike,
Yeah,
in your opinion, Mike?
yes, there is.
There is flow. Okay, so we know that it's viable. What other discussions we have to have at this point?
And Ray will have to get a sewer permit for that, because there's gonna be a change of use. And change of use of the portion of the building.
Is
Okay.
Ray the owner?
Yes.
Ray's the owner, Ray McMahon.
Sure.
I think his last name McMahon.
RDM, yeah.
RDM, yeah.
So by capacity, you're saying that the service connection and
Yeah.
the street has enough capacity?
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
You plan to open both of your additional seating spaces simultaneously or in 2 separate times?
No, 2 separate phases.
Then you're gonna have to, we'll have to consider breaking up the accessibility fee then, otherwise you're gonna have to pay the full accessibility fee in advance
Yes,
before you open up the function room, for instance.
correct.
So you need to work with Mike on just a proportional payment for the regular restaurant
Okay.
to be made, and then your additional monthly charges for the flow.
Mhm.
You know about that, right?
I do not.
Yes, when you increase your seating and buy more flow, then you increase your monthly charge for the use at the site. Is that correct, Mike?
Oh, yeah, once you, wherever the flow is,
Right.
your treatment units will go up.
So we're gonna have to get her those numbers as well.
So-
That's gonna go back to Ray.
Okay, but I'm saying if somebody, she's being held responsible for it, to pay Ray. So we would like the applicant who's here tonight to know what those numbers would be, so she can make an informed decision,
Yes.
obviously.
Right, so essentially, the accessibility fee follows the property. So once it's paid for the property for that
It's forever at that
use,
571.
it's forever there.
Okay.
And then the billing follows the treatment units that are also assessed on the accessibility fee. It's just
And that's
a
done
different
every-
rate,
6 months.
right, every 6 months.
And so the bill that you get right now will, twice a year will go up.
I believe that will still continue with Ray, and that part's in my lease. He just
Oh, he
wants me to
pays
pay
that.
this part separately.
Okay, well, as long as he may throw it back on you if his sewer bill's gonna go up. Make sure you know that. Is every 6 months when the bill comes for the sewer use, because you're buying more flow, which means you're sending more water into the system, which means the monthly charges go up, and then you get billed every 6 months for the monthly charges.
Do you have any idea approximately how many treatment units she's gonna go up?
I don't want approximations tonight, I want.
I don't know, I don't
I
have.
want a
the-
response, I'd like a response between the sewer department and the applicant on exactly what the proportional accessibility fee is gonna be for the restaurant and the proportional charges based on that accessibility fee, and then what the other function room is gonna be, so that they're broken up in two separate numbers for the applicant. Because if you're gonna do it in two phases, it has to be broken up.
So the phases aren't gonna be far apart, like, hopefully within the same, like, month period.
Well, you'd have to pay the whole thing in advance then.
Okay.
Or at the,
That's what I assumed.
no, at the time you're looking for your CO, excuse me.
So
My mistake.
is it true the existing restaurant
Yes.
is that all of one phase and you're just simply adding on, or?
So the existing restaurant, we're basically just taking down one wall and adding 10 seats into
In
it.
that front area?
Correct.
I see.
And then the other
then the
farther
function
left
room.
side will be the function space.
Okay.
Well, if you're only gonna be 1 month
One
apart,
part.
you'll have to pay the whole deal when you ask for the first thing to start.
Sure.
Okay. I just wanna make sure you're informed,
Yes,
please.
thank you.
Commissioners?
Sounds exciting.
Okay, so we're gonna leave it in the hands of yourself, and Mike will give you the figures you need for the proportional expenses, or if you're gonna do the whole thing at once, you decide and confirm that with Lynn in the office about what your decision is. And then we can move forward from there to help assist you in getting going. When do you wanna get going? Like tomorrow morning?
Like next week.
Well, yeah, you're gonna have to apply for the Ray's gonna have to apply for the permit,
So he gave
because
me,
you can't get a building permit
so
without
he
it.
gave me the lovely application that he's already signed and everything, and he told me to write a check and go downtown.
Well, then as if it's filled in, if the application, it's all filled out?
Yes.
All right, and you have a check you'd like to leave with that tonight? Because you can leave it. You don't have to go into the office. We can leave it with our,
I'll come in tomorrow.
fine, that's fine. Just want to save you a trip if you didn't want to drive in.
It's okay.
Because the permit's gotta get reviewed first.
I understand. I'm good. Just trying to save her a trip.
Would it be easier if I leave it right now?
No, it'd be easier if you come in tomorrow and take care of it tomorrow.
Perfect.
Well, somebody's gotta sign off, well, yeah.
We'll figure that part
We'll get
out.
it signed. All right. Anything else for this applicant from the commission? We're good, we're good with, well, good luck with your new business.
Thank you.
Hope it goes well.
Thanks.
The next item is a Hadley Falls sewer easement. Is this a short thing or is this a long thing? Whoever's got this item.
This is Mike's.
Yeah, they, remember when Hallie
Yep, we
Falls
talked
came
about
in?
it. Yep.
They couldn't find the written easement. It was back in 1950s when they built it.
Yep.
So Joanne sent me a copy of this.
Okay.
So I said that I was in the process of leaving. So I emailed it to Mike Trank for him to review it. And he came back with comments.
Okay. Good.
Mike still on the line?
So, Mike Trank, are you on the line?
Yes, I am.
Are you aware of what we're talking about, this Hadley Falls sewer easement?
Yes,
And you sent comments back.
yes.
Could you please discuss those with us?
Yeah, I believe that's the one that's, in the easement. Refresh my memory, Mike. There's a
It's-
couple
it's-
documents I reviewed this week.
The one that goes through the factory property that goes directly to the sewer pumping station on East Union Street.
And you said your only comment was, about the word defend should be deleted, and then you
Yeah.
recommended we have
That's
legal
right,
counsel.
Yeah. Yeah, I thought that was the one. In the easement, they're talking about, the grantee, the town, defending the grantor. And that may be problematic, and I think that's something that you may want to have your legal counsel review.
So what's your recommendation, Mike? We eliminate the word grantee and replace it with something different?
No, my recommendation is to eliminate the word defend. I
Defend.
think it's in the
It's in the,
fifth paragraph of the easement down at the bottom of the first page, first line.
The first line.
the last paragraph, first line, fourth.
The word
over.
defend?
Yeah.
And what is the implication there, Mike, that you have a problem with?
Well, by agreeing to defend, that's got some legal implications to it. And let me give you an example. In our professional liability insurance, we are not insured to defend. That's excluded from our insurance. Our insurance will cover, errors and omissions and stuff like that, but it specifically excludes costs for defense. So in essence, you could potentially be paying legal fees for defending the grantor, if something were to come up. So, and I'm an engineer, I'm not an attorney. That's why I suggested that you may want to have your legal counsel review that and provide some input from a legal perspective.
Okay, that's a good catch. So we will have this, the commissioners, you have any comments, Dave?
I think it sounds prudent.
All right, so I think that based on the commission's, I think we should have a motion. So somebody make a motion to have this sent to legal counsel. Rob?
I will make a motion that the sewer easement request for tax map 34, lot 171, be referred to legal counsel for an opinion that shall include the word defend in that request.
Now, is this a standard one, Mike, or is this something they gave us?
Fine, I believe they gave you.
This is something they gave us. This is not the town's document.
I don't think so.
Okay, good.
Yeah.
All right. Dave, you have a second, please?
Oh, yes, I second.
Okay, the motion's been made to send this document to legal counsel for review. And we'll have a roll call vote. David?
Yes.
Rob?
Yes.
Chair votes yes. Thank you, Mike, for your opinion.
That's what I'm here for.
Okay, man?
Just-
Okay.
Just want people on the line to know, none of you are muted, so if you have something to chime in, you can go ahead.
Our select,
Lynn, did you share the comments I had? Might want to pass those along too for legal review. I didn't see anything on there that would be necessarily need an attorney look, but there were a few things that I saw on there. Might want to update before the board signs it.
did you,
Okay,
can you identify those, Adam? Are you referring to this sewer easement?
Let's see. There's a reference to a parking easement at the bottom of page 2. I think that's a vestigial left over from probably a template from an earlier easement, or maybe they also drew up a parking easement for that front section. So that needs to come out or get changed to sewer easement. One, I think it's more style than anything, but I don't know if the board right now is asking for all this, the select board to be listed, or if they are okay with just the chair. And I think now they're requesting that it be referred to as select board chair instead of chairman, board of selectmen. The plan title itself that's referenced isn't like an exact match, so they might want to match those two up if it's going to get recorded. Close, but it's not quite an exact one. And there was a piece of the easement area that goes underneath the 13-unit building. Is everybody okay with that? Or should it jog and go around it? It's not much, but
Now, did you share these comments in writing somewhere?
I emailed them to Joanne, Lynn, Corey, and maybe a year ago, and Sarah, I think, on
Yeah, I
Monday.
didn't forward them to you because I thought,
No, that's fine, just make sure they're included in what we send to council.
Adam, this is David. The easement under the building, you're referring to the existing three-story brick building?
Yeah, I'm looking, yes, at the easement plan. It's on the southern piece of the property. I think the note says that it's gonna be turned into 13 units, maybe?
Something like that, 6 on each floor?
Yes, three-story building, yes.
And where
Building number
the
one
first
is
floor would
listed
be a
on the plan
community
also.
room and an office.
All right, any other comments that we have to ask our legal counsel to look at?
I don't think so, but if you, from fast while you work, I'm gonna try to find, I have an old version of an easement that had been blessed by Bill Drescher, the late Bill Drescher, a few years back, so I'm gonna see if he left the word defend in there or not.
All right, thank you, Adam, for those things that you noticed, and if we can include that email with those comments with our request for legal to look at this. Make sure they're included. Lynn, you'll get that?
If I
so you want
find
me
that other,
to,
I'll let you know here.
so you want me to send his email to legal?
No, I want you to get it.
Okay, what?
I want you to get the email from him.
I have it, but
All
I'm
right,
saying.
so you
did
can print it, and when this goes off to legal, you can make sure that Adam's comments are properly presented to legal as
Okay.
well.
I would imagine that the easement document has to somehow acknowledge the existence of the brick building as not to be, or the easement would be around the brick building. You know,
I think they drew a straight line to make an easement, and it just clipped the corner of the building, and within a 25-foot easement, it looks like that little bit that's encroaching,
It's just-
it wouldn't be in the way to ever construct a sewer line.
it
through
wouldn't
there.
be in the way, but still, it should be acknowledged to some extent.
Either that, or they just redraw the line so that it misses the building.
Yeah.
Who drew the lines, Mike?
No, that's me.
Okay. All right, well, maybe we can have them redraw those lines so that it doesn't go under the building, which would be smarter.
Because it's an existing soul line, that's not moving or changing.
Who are we dealing with on this?
Dubay.
The big,
Dubay?
Dubay Group?
Yes, they've been the engineer of the site
I
all
remember.
along.
I remember when, what's his name came in?
Dougie boy,
Doug. All right, so,
yeah.
wonder if we should contact Dubay Group and ask them to redraw that sewer easement. Commissioners? Just move it so that it misses the building. It didn't seem,
Either had to wait till legal counsel, then see what legal counsel says.
yeah, okay. All right, we'll let it ride. It's not a big rush right now. All right, any more business on the Hadley Falls sewer easement? Okay, we're gonna move on. The DPW split agreement, we have our finance director with us tonight. She's gonna offer some insight. Everybody has a copy of Adam's highway utility supervisor and engineering technician, Goffstown DPW, job descriptions. So I imagine you get them handy. And then Adam sent a memo.
That's actually from me.
Well, actually CC to Adam from Danielle. And it talks about our new proposed agreement. I'm going to turn the floor over to Danielle and let her go first. Adam, if you want to chime in at any time, just kind of speak up, Adam, because we can't see you.
Sounds good. I'll keep you muted in case my baby starts crying.
Okay. Oh, I could have said something there. I'm glad I didn't say it.
It's not me crying, I promise.
I was wondering if you were still at the garage, maybe.
I'm actually on vacation today, but it's okay. I just, I wanted to be there for you guys tonight.
Thank you. All right, Danielle, you have the floor. Please identify yourself for the record first.
Good evening, everyone. I'm Danielle Besora, the Finance Director and Assistant Town Administrator here at Goffstown. The memo you have before you is just a compilation of the facts that were presented to finance regarding a change in the budgeted shared cost for 2 positions. Currently, the positions are shared 50-50 between DPW and sewer. And the proposal, as I understand it, would move the utility supervisor to a 10% DPW and 90% sewer commission. And then the position 2, the engineering technician, would move 90% to DPW and 10% to the sewer commission. The revised job descriptions, as Adam provided, are before you, so if there's any questions on those, Adam will be able to answer. My memo here is really just about the split as it's presented and the potential cost impact, and I was asked to include a proposed motion that this be effective back to February 1st, if the commission were to move forward with that shared arrangement.
Okay. Commissioners, do you have any questions for finance on this? I think the Public Works Director supplied us also with a list of duties that were going to be transferred from the non-union engineering technician over to the sewer non-union utility supervisor to make sure that the balance is achieved as well as the work is getting done. We've seen that sheet in advance, and we showed it to our utility supervisor, and he has agreed that he is confident that he can take over the duties that need to be taken over. I don't have a problem with the 90-10 split. I think it gives us a little more time with our utility supervisor to do a lot more things we want to get done. And we still have Hoyle Tanner to fall back on for our engineering needs. We can always have them help us with that work. So I'll ask Rob and Dave to chime in, please.
Danielle, in the town's documents, is there some definition of a supervisor that
Only
needs to be qualified here?
no, because that's not specifically a supervisor of personnel, but also of the position and in this case the facilities that they're overseeing. So
So it's more, also picks up managerial
it can.
oversight rather than strictly supervisory.
Yes. So it's all defined within the job description specifically for that.
I see the supervisor's looking it over carefully right now, so we'll wait and we can hear from him as well when the time comes. Rob?
So without oversimplifying, because I know there's a lot of time and detail in these documents, but my basic understanding is the engineering technician is to support our utility supervisor for essential call functions when there may be vacation or personal time, and to provide assistance in that end. And I think, like you were saying, as long as our other engineering requirements can be met, I don't have a problem. I do see that the utility supervisor must be available to assist in the winter maintenance operations. Just curious, I really don't know what that means in terms of man hours and cost.
I'm thinking that we may have to do this 90-10 agreement for 1 calendar year, track the payroll, and see if it actually works. That would be my suggestion to DPW as well as the commission here. So we've tried it in the past at 50-50 here. At one point, the Public Works Director, Megan Terrio, requested a 75-25 because he felt that we were having too much sewer time and not enough DPW time.
Sure.
That got tracked, and we went back to 50-50. So we've been kind of bouncing up and down this ladder here to try to figure out how to make this work.
Right, and I guess kind of the genesis of my comment is that, there's inevitable sewer call-outs. I don't know what percentage of the time the engineering technician may be required to be there instead of Corey. You know, and also depending on winter storms, how much time that would require of Corey. So it very well may wash, and I think that what you're saying makes a lot of sense, Tim, to track and see how it works out.
We also have the possibility to work with Public Works to cross-train a couple of other selected employees to help with the on-call status. And then, once again, we would budget, our budget includes funding for, like, the VACCON personnel and such to go out and run the VACCON. So we could, I'm sure we could find some balance with DPW and maintain our alliance with DPW and just run it for a year and see how it works and go from there.
So, Corey, when you fill out your timesheet, I assume there's a way for you, there's 3 bullets here that identify DPW-specific tasks.
Yeah,
So
everything's.
There's a way for you to code
Yeah,
that.
I split my hours in the computer, so when it goes to Adam to be reviewed, he can see what hours are sewer and what hours are dedicated to Public Works.
These 3 functions which are
Yeah,
related to
I just
DPW.
write down how many hours each day is spent for sewer, and how many hours a day would be spent for Public Works.
Thank you.
Adam, I heard you. Do you want to chime in?
Yep, one other thing to add, the primary thing for the engineering tech throughout the year, other than the emergency on-call backup, is environmental reporting. So that's kind of what we're thinking is we'll help Corey with the reporting end for both the CMOM, the Manchester wastewater report, and then the DES quarterly stuff, as well as, if he needs it, the fats, oil, grease, and industrial pretreatment too. So kind of the back office reporting end if need be, and then kind of, like you said, kind of see where things go here after a year or so. The on-call stuff is really tough. You know, try to look at, okay, are we going to be able to provide, we will be able to provide sewer backup, you know, year-round. The winter maintenance thing, even though I bet Corey would love to jettison that, really does help us, and that's kind of a 1 out of 6 rotation. So we have, the goal for us would be to keep the 6 supervisors so we don't lose that. So, you know, luck of the draw, you can plan on a good 10 to 12 plowable events, big type storms a year, plus a bunch of, you know, miniature call-in type stuff that aren't a lot of hours, but they still stink. So, you know, you've got a couple month period where he's one of those 6, and then, you know, and then the rest of the year, you know, he's kind of relieved of that piece, and then we'll still continue on with the backup. So I was hoping it kind of would come out in the wash, but certainly open after a year to take a look, and we automatically tally up those hours, so we'll be able to get a good accounting at the end of the year what real was versus the 90-10.
And Adam, you're agreeable that if we have to make a minor adjustment to our funding, that you would work with us on that?
Oh, for sure. For
Okay,
sure.
good. Okay.
Okay.
So do we need to have any kind of a motion on this at this point to begin this process? And retroactive to February 1, you said, Danielle?
That was my understanding of
Okay,
of
that's
what
fine with us.
DPW was looking for.
So if one of you other commissioners would like to make a motion to that effect, then we can move on with this and see how it works.
Danielle, say that there was a motion already written.
It's highlighted at the very bottom of the
Oh,
memo.
look at that. The highlighted part, it's in black and white.
Mastered it.
Well, then I guess I'll make a motion to approve the revised shared cost structure as proposed by DPW for the utility supervisor and engineering technicians positions, retroactively effective 2/1/2021.
That was very well stated, Rob, so I'll second that.
Motion was made and seconded. Is there any discussion on the motion? Seeing none, we'll have a roll call vote. Dave?
Yes.
Rob?
Yes.
Chair votes yes. We put that one aside.
Congratulations.
Thanks, folks.
All right.
Do we need him for the VACCON?
We do. Adam,
And Danielle,
Adam, you going to stay on for a little bit longer so we can talk about the VACCON a little bit?
I certainly will, yep. And thanks, Danielle, for putting that memo together in the motion.
You're welcome.
Okay. Under old business, we have the VACCON, and we have been in an unofficial discussion with the Public Works Director over how we are going to proceed, whether we are going to remain as a stakeholder in the VACCON for down the road, or if we are going to, I don't know if we can have a hybrid arrangement with them or not, where if we have an emergency call, we could call on the town's machine, but we would definitely consider doing our summer cleaning as an outsource in our budget. So, I want to start by asking Adam, if I may, does that sound like something that we could work on, or would you prefer that we get our emergency service from the contractor and then have a complete clean slate with DPW on this?
The way I'm certainly amenable to anything, so don't feel like you're leaving me in a lurch if you go one way or another. I think it makes a heck of a lot of sense if you can, at the very least, get the emergency response from us, assuming the VACCON's up and running, which it is 100% right now, knock on wood. If you can get emergency response from us, that probably, if you're thinking about going out again elsewhere, it's going to shave quite a bit off that cost, and certainly, make out a unit that's otherwise nearby. We've got somebody that's already getting the call, easy enough to call one or a couple more operators in and operate that machine. So I think it makes a lot of sense if we continue to provide that going forward. Of course, we got some discussions to have before 2025 CIP, but just to give you a little bit of a thought, I'm certainly looking towards maybe we downsize that equipment and we do a smaller machine that's more of a hydro excavator type jet machine with a smaller vacuum tank, either trailer mounted or truck mounted, that would be the same thing. It'd be almost all of our emergency response and our one-off hydro excavation and maybe some jetting, but for the most part also be contracting out our basin and our pipeline cleaning. So that's the kind of thing we're going to be looking at, but I don't see us ever losing the ability for emergency response. We just need it, and you need it too. So I think I'd pledge to continue that if you want to go that way.
Well, Adam, would you be able to create some formulation for a cost-shared reduction for the emergency service only, or is that something that's hard for you to put together for us, a cost-sharing on the VACCON for that purpose?
I would think the way to go for that might just be that, can we send you an invoice? Hours used, and here's the hourly rate. I'm sure there's a FEMA rate for that. Maybe we just use that, and that might be a good way to handle it.
I'm going to let the commissioners
Only
chime
pay for what
in.
you use.
Thank you, Adam. I'm going to let the commissioners chime in. Dave?
But do we have any sunk, cost of the machine that we should redeem in this agreement, or just cut loose at this point and go under send an invoice to us when we use it?
Okay, Rob?
I guess my thought is we're basically contracting with an outside service at a state-approved rate. Does it make sense to, like Adam was saying, just get an invoice, but have it be some ratio of the current state-approved rate? And just flat out get billed for it.
Adam, can I make sure you find out what our state-approved rate was from our summer work, so you can review that number and have a look at it?
Yeah, you're talking about the hourly rate from Belmore?
Yes.
Yep. I would probably, might be cleanest. I don't know how FEMA rate compares to Belmore's rate that he's charged. We could certainly look at it. The other way to do it would be the loaded rate for us based on known maintenance costs and, capital costs of the machine. But, where it's so far into right now, where this current machine so far into the end of its life, I'm not sure that, we start talking about capital costs for that. Doesn't make a lot of sense if it's a 22-year-old machine or whatever it is.
I concur. I concur.
To David's question, what we may want to do is look at, I'm sure we're going to either auction that off or trade it in. maybe with Danielle, if she's still on the line,
I'm here, yep.
maybe maybe the 25% of whatever the return is for that old outgoing machine, is a deposit to the sewer fund.
Or could remain a credit with you folks and we could work it off too.
Sure. Yep.
I don't care.
Yeah, I mean, whatever. is-
Depending on how we do the purchase, it could go right into the purchase of the new machine too, if we're still in that mode.
Yeah, whatever's equitable, we can certainly work with you either way.
So Adam, just to be clear, you have no intention of keeping the VACCON truck in the fleet long-term as a occasional use vehicle? You want to get rid of it completely and replace it with something newer and smaller?
So if I had to pull the trigger tonight, I would say that's my plan right now.
Okay.
What I can tell you, the only thing I can tell you for sure is I definitely don't want to go down to not having anything in the fleet. So
Right.
if it's a matter of keeping the old one until the wheels completely fall off, and instead of purchasing a brand new one, we purchase that smaller machine, so we have an old rusty truck plus the newer smaller thing. I could see that happening too. But yeah, I don't want to leave myself with absolutely nothing in stock, but right now I'm leaning towards, downsizing for sure. And the 500,000 that we've got in there is a little high. I think we could probably pick up a new machine for, looks like about 380, 390 right now. But have to do more research on that. It's a couple years out in CIP.
Adam, this is Dave again. What year is your $500,000 in the budget, in the CIP?
Right now it's 2025.
You're going to limp for 3 more years with the existing VACCON?
That's the plan. It's running pretty good right now. I say that and it'll
If
the magic
necessary, we'll
smoke will
hire out.
bust out of it again tomorrow. But as of right now, it's been overhauled by the gurus, so to speak. So they tell me it starts fine, runs fine. It's ready to go.
Thank you.
So Adam, just for informational purposes, I would say that in the event that the Public Works Department was to decide in 2025 that something smaller wasn't really in the best interest, that you wanted to get a new machine for the 380, 390, 400,000, whatever the number may be. And in the event that this relationship that we may have with a contractor doesn't pan out, could we be able to become a partner at that time again, or would we be signing our see you later papers and we wouldn't be able to come back in the door?
Doors never close for you
All
guys.
right, good.
I think sadly this past year the biggest problem was personnel. We were down 5 positions, so even when the machine was up, I didn't have the people to dedicate to it and still get road work done. So that could always be a problem. Going forward, I guess as long as I can stay full staff, we can dedicate the people to it.
I guess we'll have to play it out a few years
Yeah,
and see how. All right, so,
I think you should let him go back to vacation.
yeah, I'm sorry to keep you from your vacation. I'll have Lynn email you the hourly rate from the Belmore Catch Basin Maintenance, so you'll know what our hourly rate is for, that includes a driver and a machine. That's the rate for one man and a machine. So if it's gonna be multiple DPW employees and a machine, could you make sure that the hourly rate reflects what your costs are so we can compare apples to apples?
Yeah, I gotcha. Okay, yeah,
Okay.
makes sense.
I think we can also show
Right,
the
and I guess that, might fall back too on Corey, late night, sewer emergency in Bernardville. Corey, you gonna call in 2 operators, or you gonna just have one in yourself?
No, we
Your
did
moral
this,
plan?
we actually did this yesterday, and I just call in one guy, me and one guy.
Okay, that's easy then.
So if you could calculate it with one man, Adam, that way we'll have at least an equal comparison between the two services.
Sounds good.
Okay, do we have anything else for Adam at this point? And then if you could get us some sort of an answer and, in a time frame that's acceptable to you, we can make a final decision hopefully at our next commissioners meeting as to how we'd like to proceed, Adam?
That makes sense. You're talking about proceeding for 21
Well, whether we're gonna,
or,
whether we're gonna stay on with you folks for the whole 21 season, or whether we're gonna, split away and try being independent for a season and see how it works, cost-wise.
sounds good. Okay.
Thank you, Adam.
All right. Thanks all.
Go back to
Good night.
vacation.
Bye.
Take care.
Okay, we have another item that Danielle is here for. We have discussed having Mike Yurgo work for us as a consultant. And the town admin, I went to, I'll give you the whole, I'll lay the whole thing out. I went to the IT department to find out what we would need to set up an office with a computer and equipment at the sewer treatment plant, a pumping station, excuse me, on East Union Street. That email made its way, Brian Ray did a calculation on costs and equipment, and it made its way to the town administrator, who had some comments for us regarding us hiring a consultant. And I'm going to let Danielle speak to that at this time. Please, Danielle. And there is the email from the town administrator is in your hands. Everybody got a copy of the administrator's email. Danielle?
Okay. So just to start off, I can say that I have only been involved in pieces of the conversation, but I'll do my best to answer any questions that may come up. I know as it was presented to me and as the town administrator had shared the concerns, the town just wants to make sure that any consultant that is hired meets the definition of an independent contractor per the terms of the Department of Labor at both the federal and state levels to ensure that regulations are met and that we're not in violation of anything. There was questions about if a previous employee were to become a part-time employee, what that structure would look like, and really what's the difference in the employment relationship between an employee and an independent contractor. So I can answer any questions. I mean,
All right, so
sure.
I'm going to start with the first question. We have considered having Mike Yurgo, in his retirement, work for us as a consultant to help us out with some of the learning curves.
Okay.
Okay, and finish a few plans for us. Mike has to meet these bullet points that you've set forward to be qualified as a consultant. Correct?
Yes, yep, and I can provide
You
those.
can provide them, okay. How about the discussion about putting it out to bid?
One of the federal standards that's discussed is in determining one of the internal tests to determine whether somebody's an independent contractor or a consultant, and a consultant or an employee, is they talk about the amount of initiative, judgment, and foresight in open market competition. So that's one of their particular guidelines. So if Mike were to be a consultant, typically we'd be looking back to the town's purchasing policy and factors like that to see if if something went to bid or if there was some sort of competition.
So
or
we-
if the bid was
so-
waived.
Go ahead, Rob.
I'm sorry.
So basically, we can't just say, we're going to hire Mike to do it at a proposed rate because we haven't followed the competitive bidding practices. Is that a fair statement?
That's not the only component. I think the commission has shown before that you can waive the bidding process, and that would take a motion, but then it just comes down to whether or not the other characteristics are met.
Okay, good. That's very clear.
Can I
Rob?
just chime in there? So I think, excuse me, part of the whole purpose of having Mike complete these tasks is he has very specific knowledge and experience with our system and knows information that nobody else knows. So, I kind of look at it, if you put it in the purchasing perspective, are we buying, 16-ounce hammers with a wooden handle, or are we buying something proprietary? And I kind of look at Mike and being something proprietary that, he provides a service that isn't qualifiable under the open market conditions. So from what you just said, is it fair to say that we have the authority to waive that aspect for those reasons?
Yes, for the competitive bidding component, yes.
So we're going back to the qualifications, the points, okay. We're gonna have to supply Mike and the commission with those points so we can make sure that,
I have them here for you.
okay, so we can, are they something that can be read, that you can tell us about? So Mike can either nod he does it, or no he doesn't, or
Sure.
just to get a sort of a general sense of where we are?
Yeah.
Okay,
So the significant factors that they ask for employers to look at, the first one is the extent to which the services rendered are an integral part of the principal's business. So I'm not sure what the intention was for if it's only certain projects or the ongoing length of time. I'm not sure how long certain projects are scheduled to take or what might be on the slate.
well, the projects we have is Mike generally designs our reconstruction projects over the summers, for the summer work.
Okay.
We have about 6 to 8 years of summer work ahead of us before we complete our major reconstruction projects.
Okay.
So this is going to be something that we either are gonna heap it on Mike to finish it all in a 2-year time frame, or we're gonna get him on an annual basis to come back and design one project for that particular year. And that really is important because we don't know how much we get done the year before. Okay. So, Mike's company is called Castle Castle Environmental. So I'm thinking that his company is an environmental company, therefore, it would probably meet the criteria of that bullet, would you think?
Well, it's actually an integral part of the principal's business. So
Yes.
the principal in this case is actually the town.
Sewer Commission is the principal.
Yes, that's what I mean. The Goffstown, the
Commission.
would-be employer in the scenario if it were not an independent contractor.
Proper design of a pipeline to be put in is an integral part of our business.
Yes. So that bullet, we are at or very
So-
close to it.
So the problem, the concern there is if the projects being done are considered an integral part of the business, then the relationship shifts to an employer-employee relationship rather than an independent contractor.
Boy, this is like double talk here.
So it's going through, it says that's a factor that has to be defined before a relationship is established.
Okay, so let's move on to the
That's
next.
one.
Let's go to the next one.
The second one you kind of just touched on was the permanency of the relationship. So it could be, over a course of years.
He
or-
doesn't want to be here that long. So
Right.
we'd like to try to get these things wrapped up so he can go
Sooner
become a
rather than
retiree and go on.
Yep. And I'm just reading these as the way they have them
Yep.
listed. The amount of the alleged contractor's investment in facilities and equipment.
Okay.
So that would be part of the discussion about, the utility provided, possibly connections to the town's network.
I don't know
stuff
we
like
can
that.
connect to the town's network. The
Okay.
town has a secure network, as far as I know, that because that's what the IT director requested at CIP about
Yep.
6 years ago. So your buildings are all, there is no outside connection to this system. So we have probably going to make an arrangement to either purchase or have the master drainage file put on a thumb drive, which we would purchase from the town, and then we would be able to work off of that. So we wouldn't actually have a connection to the
Okay.
town's computer
So
system.
it would be,
It's independent of the town's computer
yeah.
system.
But still the investment in the facilities and the equipment, so.
Okay.
The office space, the computer, whatever
Okay.
it might be that needs.
And
to
is that the
supply.
investment that the contractor has to make in that equipment, you're saying?
Yes.
And
If the employer's making the investment, or if the contractor makes the investment and then back charges the employer for that
Okay.
amount,
Okay.
then it's considered that the employer made the investment, and therefore they are an employer, part-time employee, as opposed to an independent contractor.
Okay, I understand that.
The next one says the nature and degree of control by the principal. So that would be how much control and direction is coming from the town to that independent contractor.
He pretty much knows the drill, and we don't know what he knows about it. That's why it's proprietary, and he's going to be setting it up for us.
Yep.
So we would have less knowledge than him, significantly less knowledge.
Okay, yeah, I think in this case, it's referring specifically to the direction of the work. So we need you to work on this project, and then he's just off running.
Yes,
Or do we need you to attend these meetings at this date and time, and kind
I
of
see.
those other factors.
Okay.
When the work needs to be done by, that sort of thing. And then the next one says the alleged contractor's opportunities for profit and loss. So that would be, as the independent contractor, Mike, does he have an opportunity for profit and loss? Or is this really more of a just relationship where it's an employer and part-time employee?
I see what you're saying. Okay.
The next one, and that one, just to explain, that one ties back to the investment component. So if he's not invested equipment and whatnot into it, then he has no potential for loss if something were to happen to the relationship.
Okay.
The next one here says the amount of initiative, judgment, or foresight in the open market competition, so that's the one we had talked about. And then the degree of independent business organization and operation. So I believe that would be, Mike operating on his own versus the town.
All right.
So those are the main characteristics that the FLSA, that's the Fair Labor Standards Act, recommends that you test when you're determining whether or not there's a relationship. The other option, of course, would be if Mike were to be a part-time employee, if the commission decided to make a part-time position, that would be another discussion as well, where the commission could set an hourly rate that's agreeable to them. And then we would pay Mike through the regular payroll process, and he'd be subject only to taxes.
What is Mike's limitations within the New Hampshire retirement system for an income before they penalize him?
Yeah, that's a great question. So it's not about income limit. You could pay him $1 million an hour, although I know
understand,
that's
no.
not realistic. But it's
Hours.
it's about the hours. So the New Hampshire retirement system limits it to, hold on, I got that right here for you.
Let me pass that out.
No, the annual limit is 1,352 hours.
So if Mike was not to exceed 1,352 hours, then he
he'd
would
be-
not be penalized on his pension.
Correct.
Okay.
Yep, and which works out to, you could spread it out however you want, because that's an annual limit, so it could be, in a matter of months, a matter of,
So at that point,
Totally
Mike is no longer an independent contractor. He is a part-time employee of the sewer department.
Mm-hmm.
And in the event that we decided to purchase equipment and set up an office in our pump station on East Union Street, then we have no violations, or we have no limitations, and we're not
Correct.
going to be in non-compliance.
correct, yeah, and there'd be no length of time or any sort of limitations on that. That relationship could continue as long as it's suitable to both parties. You could pay for all of the equipment, and that equipment could be installed by IT, it could be maintained by IT for any other types of,
Right. Because it is-
troubleshooting, licensing.
It is town equipment at that point.
Yep, yeah, exactly.
All right, commissioners, comments based on this conversation or questions?
Well, one of the things that I understand is, as an employee, Mike was preparing sewer plans, and these plans were typically not sealed and sent for construction. Is that pretty much went
Sealed.
with a PE stamp?
PE stamps, they bring them to Mike Trank, and Mike Trank signs them and stamps them. So they go to HCA for the final
So
stamp.
basically, you were doing the.
I was doing the drafting work and engineering, he's doing the approval work on the plans and the specifications.
Okay, so in terms of, so we don't have any real professional liability concerns, because ultimately that is gonna be sealed by Oil Tanner.
Right.
Okay, so, I mean,
That's big.
that's huge. So I guess the question is whether or not there's,
I want to get Dave to comment
No,
before you.
Nothing yet.
we have a fork in the road. One could be a consultant, one could be a part-time employee. Mike, do you have a preference? Do you have a strong feeling?
I am not coming back as a part-time employee.
Okay.
Because I have a company and I have that I have cost of that. And also, with my insurance, it's also deducted out of my payroll.
Okay,
So there's some financials back, it's a good financial way of making money. Not coming back as a town employee.
So as far as some of these other considerations that we've been discussing, computers, software, office space, so you're basically having a consulting business and are you planning on having more than one client in terms of the points?
As
that
of right
Danielle-
now, there's only one client I do have.
Okay.
And he's supplying me with the computer.
Was your question, Rob, was he willing to work at our town space, or is he gonna wanna work at home? Is that what your question was?
No,
I
I
thought
mean,
that's where you were leading, and I wanted to make sure that was clear on your question.
no, my understanding from some of the comments that Danielle was making is that there needs to be a certain amount of initiative and foresight and where how much of his overall company's work is gonna be based on the single client, right? Because if you're having multiple clients, like you're talking about, you already have a client that's not Goffstown,
Nope.
then you're firmly in the consultant role.
Yeah.
And that helps meet some of those objectives, the way I understand it. And under that scenario, we wouldn't be providing equipment, software, and all that other stuff.
Yeah.
That's
So I'd
Your
like to,
business.
I'd like to provide a scenario, if I may. Dave, or you have anything you'd like to comment on first?
I'd like to understand how we're laying out the scope of work for this consultancy every year. What are we as a commission going to have a list of specific projects?
We have it already. We have the 7-year CIP plan. Correct, Mike? Or
Yeah, let's
we have a
project.
7-year
Okay.
CIP plan, and each year out, we have to have a design for the reconstruction on those sewer lines on the CIP plan. So we do have a scope of work in place already.
Thank you. That's what I wanted to bring into the record, Tim. Thank you.
Okay, thank you for that. So,
Mr. Chair, am I on mute?
please, who's that?
Chet,
Chet, come on in.
Chet, I apologize. I thought I was on mute. So I just want to speak to a few of these items. I don't want to be overly cautious, but I think given that this is going to be a consulting gig that likely goes out to bid, we may want to not ask very specific questions of Mike and his intentions now and wait for an official proposal. That being said, when we're looking at a lot of these issues that define employee versus consultant, so much of this is taken care of in the contract between the consultant and the town. So, for instance, if we put out our scope of work and we also are very clear about potential costs to be incurred by the contractor then on their own, without assistance from us, because that would be a problem, tells us what their they let us know what their fee would be, and then we can take care of all of that from there. I think, and Danielle, forgive me if I'm oversimplifying this, but I believe the reason these concerns came out is because if Mike were to go to bid against other consultants, given his expertise, knowledge of the town, those kinds of things, I think we all agreed likely that's our choice. But so much of this is taken care of within that contract. Am I wrong? I guess I'm just wondering why these concerns came out prior to even a discussion about a contract. Was it because that Mike was the choice prior to putting it out to bid? Is that the major issue here?
We didn't put it out to bid, and we budgeted for Mike with his knowledge to help us through this transitional period with the new engineering tech and with Corey's taking on Mike's responsibilities. Our intention was to utilize Mike's knowledge, his proprietary knowledge, as a consultant to try to help us get through this period of time that is in our transition.
Understood. So I still think, even though this is a little bit of a bump in the road, I think it's pretty easy to clear up. Just taking one step back and looking at a consulting contract that covers everything, potentially including, Danielle, if I heard you correctly, the issue isn't we tell Mike whatever charge there might be, or any person that applies as a contractor. The issue isn't that we tell them what the cost to rent an office space within the town would be. That's not the issue. The issue is if we give them office space and then they pay for it and then we reimburse them after the fact. So if we put together a scope of work and we're clear about the potential costs incurred to utilize a space, Tim, I think you said, or sorry, Mr. Chair, I think you said East Union, there might be something there.
Yes.
And we actually put that cost into place, and we allow any contractor that happens to apply to see that. That contractor could then put together numbers that make sense. That it's not our business how they do it, and they may think about that when they're putting their offer together, and that's not an issue. Am I correct there, Danielle? That's just point one that I want to make.
Close. We would be at this same discussion point if, another engineering firm were to approach us and ask to utilize space within our facility or to rent space from the town. That shifts it over from an independent contractor to an employee-employer situation. So we would.
It does? What? I don't understand. So I don't understand if someone's renting it. Like if someone leases an apartment, they're not part owner, right? They're just leasing. So that like a lease between someone who's leasing an apartment and the building owner, it's basically an independent contract still.
So-
I think I'm having a hard time understanding that specific piece.
Chet, I'd like to interrupt for 1 minute if I may.
Please do.
Mike, what is the possibility of you performing all services at your home workstation and not being involved with any town space?
To make an investment for computers and software. But
Well, I have numbers here for computers and software, which, did you say he could bill us for this stuff and we could reimburse him for it?
No, that's what we can't do. However, as an independent contractor who is now working on his own, I do believe we can, if we put it out to bids, we could say, these are the potential incurred costs for you, or we're expecting you to do this work, and when he puts his contract together, he can say, these are the things, I'm going to do this, A, B, and C, do this scope of work, and this is my fee. So it's up to him to present to us what his fee would be, and it would be up to him to itemize the things that he needs in his own mind, and then up to us whether or not we approve that contract based on the scope of work. So it's really out of our purview at that point, especially if he's not going to be renting space in the town. That's more up to him as an independent contractor, a small business owner, whatever you want to call it, to make those decisions on his own, and from that, come up with a number that he thinks is fair to complete the scope of work.
That's
It really
correct.
is out of our hands at that point.
Yes.
All right, so
Yep.
we may want to have to discuss that with you, Mike, on this, your upfront costs as part of a contract to make sure we follow the rules and regulations here. Because otherwise, we're going to be it looks like we're already in a position where it's going to be negative for us to set up something at the sewer station. It looks like it's going to be problematic already.
Yeah, sounds that way.
Okay.
Let me try to restate what the situation is. If the consultant, in setting up his business, he spends $3,000 for his equipment that he needs to perform the task with. And he anticipates that he wants to amortize this $3,000 over a business of 4 years. Then when he puts in a bid to work on a project, he, as a business manager, he has to figure out what he's amortizing his sunk costs, his business expenses for, and that's part of the fee that he'll charge us.
That's correct.
There
And
there's an hourly fee plus an equipment fee that
yeah, he could calculate that all into his
Yep.
his rate.
So he's as a consultant, he's assuming that he'll benefit by X number of hours per year in consultancy. And that determines whether he makes any, loss or profit on his equipment that he has to buy. Okay.
Exactly.
That's correct.
So now, while we're still here, what about the time that we have been using Mike for reviewing plans and making some accessibility fee discussions? Is something that would be built into his contract with an hourly rate for those services as well?
Well, then you kind of have to get into the question too, is that something, a function that was under the employee while they were an employee? That's something that's come up specifically under the Department of Labor, is the employee continuing the same work they were doing? And, or is it the type of work that would be taken on by another employee in the absence of
Well,
the
this,
consultant?
our hope is that he was gonna train Corey on the accessibility fee and the use charges, so that
Okay.
Corey could assume that role
So
down
like
the
a
road.
training
So there's
component.
gonna be this transitional period, which, you know, it's kind of a gray area in the discussion right now, whether we can use Mike's services for this or not, we don't have a contract right now, and here he is sitting at the table,
Right.
and we're gonna have to reimburse him for his time here for tonight, some way, shape, or form. So,
I think like Selectman Bowen had pointed out, if there's a contract that lays out part of the scope of the consultant is that they're going to complete training hours, and that it's documented that those transactions are including Corey on them, so that Corey is learning from those correspondence, as opposed to Mike taking a set of plans and responding to an individual owner, and the town has no knowledge of that, then it's difficult to say that he's acting in a consulting trainer capacity.
all right.
That makes more sense with what Danielle just said.
Fine.
Corey's using the town equipment in a town facility. Our consultant is in a
Teaching.
teaching.
It's like hiring a trainer.
As well as technical planning for construction, but he's teaching at the same time.
Before you go there, Rob, can you hold your thought?
I can,
When you hire trainers to come in and do training classes, do you put them out to bid?
It depends on what the item is.
See, there's a
So,
funny little word, depends on.
It
Yeah.
does depend.
Well, it kind of depends on whether it fits the parameters of the contractual or obligations to put it out to bid. So if we want to hire Mike as a trainer, do we have to go out and put that out to bid as well? Good, that's fine. That's good to know. That sets us in the- going in the right direction.
Right.
Please, Rob.
sorry,
I had to get it off my mind. while it was right there.
and it actually kicked a whole bunch of stuff off in my mind, because really what we're talking about is two different services,
Yes, we are.
right? We're talking about a training capacity for Corey,
Yes.
and then we're talking about the sewer design aspects for the ongoing projects.
Right.
So, I guess there's two ways that we could go about doing this. We could have Mike Yurgo submit us a contract, but in all likelihood, there's a whole series of items that aren't gonna be covered because we just brought up these 2 or 3 lists of stuff that we need to address. Do we have examples of service contracts that have been accepted by the town that we could use to create an amenable contract?
Mr. Chair?
Yes, go ahead, Chet.
So I hear what Rob is saying, because we don't want to handcuff ourselves. And so I do know that there are examples within municipalities as well as within private business that allows for, I know, Danielle, don't hate me. It says it's discretionary funds in real meaning, but labeled as something else, that allows for the contractor, assuming their level of expertise is beyond anybody within the municipality, which I think is the case, likely the case here, to be able to respond to and deal with the specific items presented, as long as that profit and loss potential still exists, which means that there's he would have to put forward in the contract, on an as-needed basis, if I am needed for something that falls within these categories, this is what I would charge per hour in addition to the flat fee that I'm getting for this contract. Danielle, I'm on the right track here, right?
Yes, that is correct. Yep, the
Okay.
contract could include scope, it could include multiple rates, depending on what
Functions.
type of work is being done.
All right, Chet, did Chet have more? What was on your brain there, Chet, or should I let Rob go first?
No, I think that covered it. I heard where Rob was going, and I wanted to make sure he was aware that we don't have to handcuff ourselves. That's the good news.
Correct.
No, and that brings up, some other points. Consumables required for the job are expensible. That's all part of the normal course of business. I guess specifically, do we have an example contract that we could use to model?
We
Model
don't, not one that I can think of off the top of my head. We could definitely seek a template from legal counsel if that was something that you wanted to
No, we don't want
review.
legal involved. You're talking 6 months. Let's just keep it in-house here.
Okay.
And make it, let's get it done legally, by the book, without involving legal.
Okay, yeah, all of the contracts that we have had between the town and independent contractors were specific to their proprietary knowledge, such as like a specific software, or something like that. So their terms are very specific. They're not as general as something like this.
So even though we have the authority to waive the bidding requirements, do we still have to put it out to bid?
No.
Okay.
Nope.
So that could expedite the conversation here. Mike's proprietary knowledge of the sewer system is why we need to, get all these facts straight and clear in our brain before we make a decision on what we're gonna do here.
Correct.
So, Mike, anybody have any comment? I have a question for Mike, if anybody else has something here to add at this time.
Do we have to make a motion if we're not gonna put it out to bid? Or are we okay to just?
It's best to make a motion if that's, just so that it's recorded that,
We may be getting there.
yeah.
Right, Mike, are you amenable to the idea that, first of all, Danielle's going to give you the points that you need to meet in her outline there, and sounds like you're going to meet them all, but are you amenable to the purchase of the equipment necessary, the CAD program, and whatever else you need for your office, and then create the correct contract that states that that's part of the cost of the contract?
But right now I have to review what's going to be the cost and see how much money I'm gonna make. I mean, you know, if I work a month doing sewer and I spend all this kind of money on an AutoCAD and computer system, what am I making at the end?
Well, how much time do you generally spend completing a sewer project?
It's hard because
What
when
do
I
you
was
need?
working for the town, it was back and forth. You know, it could take a month.
Right, so you're talking about 160 hours,
Ken?
160 billable hours per project.
Yeah, okay.
And once you purchase the AutoCAD and use it, we're not gonna get rid of you for somebody cheaper. You're gonna get the long-term use out of that equipment. Plus, you can use it for your other customers.
But
Right?
this-
What?
This is for how long?
We're gonna be running 5 or 6 years probably with Mike at this rate, unless Mike, jumps on all these projects and gives us a whole year of his time
Well, I'm
every
look-
day and produces like 6 years' worth of projects in advance.
You gotta also realize too, I'm limited to how much I'm gonna make per year because of I'm taking Social Security.
Well, then,
I don't wanna worry.
Yeah, which I get a lot of other things.
that's why I'm not in a big rush to get it all done at once.
Oh, no,
Besides, we've already discussed doing it all at once could be counterproductive.
right.
Yeah, things could change along the way.
Somebody wants to speak?
So I was just saying, Mr. Chair, that what you're talking about with the purchases, and Mike, what you're talking about, that's exactly what an independent contractor does. They take a look, they look at the cost, and they try to figure out their potential profit at the end. But it does involve, unfortunately, an independent contractor does involve some risk because it kind of counts on the fact that you're putting forth an offer that really is favorable to you in the end. So, I mean, this is exactly how it goes with independent contractors all the
Right.
time.
So we're at sort of a point here where Mike has to sit back and look at his situation and come up with a decision for us. If Mike wants to do it by this methodology and do the plans for the next few years and make these investments and submit a contract for review, we can consider it. If you don't want to do that, then we're going to be going to Hoyle Tanner for our next 6 years of sewer design. So it's up to you to decide which direction you want to go. We can still pay you as a trainer to come in and train, which is not a contract, it's a training tool,
Right.
and pay you to come in and handle training and come into meetings and, different things you need to do. So I think the ball is sort of in your court right now, Mike, to look things over and think about it.
Yeah, well, I'm sure we'll look it over.
I know you will.
Well, if the scope is training, I'd like to know what the end result, when the end result is going to be achieved.
For training?
Yes,
Well, it has to be accomplished within a calendar year, I would suppose,
yes.
because now, I just heard from the Public Works Director that Corey can get assistance from town for the CMOM report and the other stuff, which Mike was gonna train Corey about, so we could have a one-time training only for the CMOM for this season, and then he's gonna be on his own to handle it.
But it's like, you know, if we're going to hire somebody to be a consultant for training, then our employee has to be available to do the training.
Well, if you're gonna be working for us 90%, I'm sure you'll have the time to, do the training.
Because the CMON report, if I do anything, it's gonna be at my house, on my computer.
Well,
I'm not gonna go here and there and.
I don't know, it's, now it's becoming contentious, and I don't wanna be contentious
I
here.
don't want to touch that.
So,
If you come in and use Corey's computer as a trainer, there's no problem with the computer. We've found out from the town.
Correct.
You're not a town employee, you're not using it, you're just training Corey how to use his computer to complete the CMOM report.
well, we'll try it and see.
I just would like you to look things over and settle it all in for a little bit, and we'll talk shortly.
Yeah, and I think part of that would be to split it up into different tasks where we're talking about specifically, you have TRC and training-related exercises that fall into one bucket, and then you have the engineering, design, and drafting part, which is another bucket. I think those
They're two
are
different, yeah.
two different things, and I think it's easier to make a motion on the training and get that kicked off,
Yes,
because that's an immediate need,
yes.
and it's immediate benefit for us and for you.
Mr. Chair, just a quick
Please.
question. I'm not sure if this has been defined yet, but the training and the TRC is the intention that Corey will be taking over TRC
Yes.
meetings at the, okay. just
Corey's
wanna
gonna
make sure.
take over all of Mike's essential functions that the engineering technician is not taking over
Okay,
in a calendar year, within a calendar year. It's gonna be done.
I understand.
And if we have problems at the end of the calendar year, you beg forgiveness. I did it when I did DES reports for the town, other towns.
Yeah.
You call DES, say, look, I'm having trouble with my CMOM report, how do I get this thing squared away? And they help you get it done, and you learn that way too.
Yes,
So after a one-year training period, Corey's gonna have to handle it. That was the agreement. And I'm confident that he will.
makes sense.
So the training motion would be for a one calendar year
We
to
could
begin
just-
with.
And we could base that on X number of hours at Y rate and shall include the following functions. And I would think that that would be easy to marshal through the
Yes.
system.
Yes,
And
And
then
we
that
can-
would cover things like these meetings and others.
And Mike can propose an hourly rate for his training time after he reviews everything and thinks it over and figures things out.
yes.
Okay. All right. I didn't think I was gonna get this involved, but here we are.
We still have Mike Trink?
Yeah, we still have a couple of items to handle
Mike
here.
is still on the line, yes.
All right. So, at this point, we do need that motion, Rob, if you're willing to make it.
Can we make a motion on?
Are we gonna make a motion after Mike looks things over and gives us a number for his decision on what his hourly rate would be for training?
I think we need a proposal for hours, tasks, and rates, and any expenses that would be incorporated in there. You know, and you don't live in town, so you have the commute or the drive to get here to perform the services, which, you
We
know,
also have to provide him with a scope of work. We can't have him make up the scope of work because that's not proper business. We have to say, look, we want training for CMOM report, we want trainings for
Okay.
this, that, A, B, C, D, E.
well, we have the essential function list, right?
Right, so we'll go through that and we'll email Mike a list of the functions we want. We're gonna ask him to consider the training for, and then he can formulate what we need to work on for funding for that. It's the only way we got it. We gotta start somewhere.
And, okay, Why can't this training be accomplished in 6 months? Why did you say a year?
Because the CMOM report isn't due till when?
March 31st
Of this year.
of this year.
So that'll get done first. But there's other reporting for the drainage basins all have to report to DES for every time they vacuum system. I don't know why we wouldn't just make a 1-year deadline on it, because if you make it for 6 months, you might have to ask for an extension within that, after the 6 months is over.
Plus I'm taking trips this summer too, so
So there's a lot of on-call training as
basically.
tasks come up.
The on-call part of it, Corey can handle. It's the reporting that we're hoping Mike is gonna give Corey the heads up on the proper reporting procedures and what needs to be done in what time frame and how to get it done correctly so that DES doesn't kick it back at us and say, hey, you know. And as far as TRC, Corey's gonna have to learn TRC eventually.
Yeah.
And be our TRC representative. Because I don't think we're gonna get that from engineering at DPW.
We're not.
Unless, Adam did say that Sarah could step up occasionally if we had questions that were the actual engineering questions, that Sarah would be able to help us with that stuff as well. So there was a olive branch extended by Public Works.
I would just suggest that Mike prepare a scope of work for us to review, because you just talked about the catch basin cleanings, when those need to be done, when the CMOM report's done. It's rolling off the top of his head. How are we gonna figure out all those,
Because it's on that list of functions that Adam gave us.
not all the dates and times and everything?
No, but that's the essential functions we want covered.
I know, but then we need to come up with the hours for each task, which he knows better than anybody.
I don't think we're not gonna have a defined hours, we're gonna have a budget that's by the hour for him to complete that task, and we get billed by the hour for that task. We're not gonna say, we want a fixed number for him to train Corey on CMOM. We have no idea how long that could possibly take.
Right, but it's gotta be less than 1,000 hours, right?
Don't matter.
Yes.
No, it doesn't matter.
Doesn't matter, I'm working for myself. I have nothing to do with the state or the town.
This is not gonna be an employee of the sewer department. It's gonna be a consulting position and training position.
That's it.
Okay.
Myself.
We got that. Okay. All right, I will, I'll consult with Mike, and I'll consult with the essential functions list that DPW supplied us, and I will work with Mike on coming up with a scope of work for the training portion of the budget, for him to supply us with a number for. And then we will also come up with, if Danielle could please supply Lynn with that list of points that he has to meet, and I'll get that from Lynn, or you can email me directly on my sewer email account. I finally got that open now.
Okay.
It's operational. So if you could email that to me, and you can email it to all the commissioners for that matter. Everyone should have the list. And then I'll print that list and I'll go sit with Mike and we'll talk it over and figure out how we're gonna make sure he's compliant.
Okay.
Okay. All right, anything else we need on Mr. Yurgo at this point? Good, thank you for everything, everyone. Okay, the next thing on the agenda is the accessibility fee, and I know that Rob and Mike Trank have been conversing, so I'm gonna start with Rob, and then we'll ask Mike to speak next. So Rob, could you begin it, please?
Okay, I guess the short version is I reviewed the last draft that Mike Trank had provided on February 8th, and put comments in a PDF document for review. So there were a few inconsistencies I noted, and some points that we should probably go over in terms of clarity of document. All part of this was for chairman's benefit.
Motion to accept the March report as complete and beneficial. And but that is our ultimate aim, even though I kid, is a motion to accept this report from our contractor.
Yes, that is the ultimate objective.
And then we make decisions based upon the information provided in the report.
Correct, and
So Mr. Chair, you were out of the room and we already accepted
When you're,
report.
when you're old, you have to go to the bathroom once in a while. I hold you all heard that on TV.
So, go ahead, Rob, I'm sorry. I'm
So
killing
I was
time.
just pulling up the electronic version. I have my comments because I don't.
I read your email, so I know you had some comments.
Right, and I think most of the comments can be addressed by Hoyle Tanner. I just wanted to point out a couple of the highlights. So fundamentally, all residential dwellings are one treatment unit, right? And I just want to make sure that that is consistently throughout the document. Parts of the state wastewater table have a flow number that's less than one treatment unit, and it was listed as an illustration in the table, and I just don't think that's good practice, because it's just going to confuse things down the road.
But are those comments still in this March document?
I have them in the electronic version of the PDF that I circulated, so everybody can read them and address them. Ultimately, we come down to a dollar per gallon for basically replacement of the system. That boils down to $11.55 a gallon, and we have a cost for our 450 gallons per day treatment unit. It is listed out to the nearest 50 cent, and I thought when we spoke last, we were gonna round that up to hundreds of dollars, so that would put it at slightly higher than we have now. So I think part of this document is to justify the number, and then the commission, assuming this is accepted, will have to vote whether or not to maintain the current accessibility fee or the one that we could legitimize through this document.
Raise it to 5,200.
Yes. But I think we can accept this document separate from
Yes.
making that determination.
Absolutely.
Um,
So
The other-
you had specific edits?
I have specific edits and some questions, some of the examples as well. Just want to clarify. We also added that part about the outdoor seating.
Yep.
And so the outdoor seating and an accessibility fee basis, that's the one-time deal, but it also moves over to be reflective in the billing. And we need to make sure that the sewer use ordinance is consistent with that. My understanding is that the commission was looking at 25% of a treatment unit for this outdoor seating based on 3 months anticipated summertime use. So that would be billed under the sewer use ordinance for the summer bill, right? And it would be essentially half of a treatment unit, which would be a quarter of the overall annual bill.
And that's not a problem billing quarters?
We
Wasn't
had
there-
decided, I had asked Danielle, we had decided at the last meeting we were gonna bill in the first half, or the second half, because that's where the summer, July 1st through December 31st. And I
Right.
did check with Danielle, and we are able to do, I just have to do it manually each time, but we don't have that many, so it's not that.
Right, and for it being a half treatment unit up to a semi-annual
I
bill,
would do a half
gives you
a
a
treatment
quarter.
of that first, on
So that
that
fits
second
the
bill.
billing software criteria.
Correct.
Well, Dave, please.
And for the ratios Rob just mentioned, he had accessory dwelling units at half of a treatment unit. This restaurant idea is, you mentioned a quarter of a treatment unit. And therefore, ultimately, whatever number we come up with here in the commission for a treatment unit fee, it should be divisible by 4. And that's why I like your number of rounding off something to 100, so that if we ever have a 25% situation, it's a nice round dollar number and doesn't have to be calculated out to some pennies. Just, I'm too much of a mathematician, Tim.
Just briefly, Rob, if we finally get this accessibility fee document to where we want it and we vote on it and approve it, when would it finally take effect, in your opinion?
Well, again, the document would be held separate from the accessibility fee implementation.
Okay, because I for one, just on the subject of the restaurants, adding the outdoor seating, they're still reeling from COVID-19 effects. I would hope that this commission could ultimately grant a waiver for this upcoming season, and we would begin in the following season, and we would give them plenty of time to notice them on the billing, because they're still hurting pretty bad.
I'm going to take a step backward. I maintain we accept this document from a contractor as a study presented to us with information. We accept it. That closes the deal. Then it's up to us to make a motion based on this information, and that's what you're discussing
I'm
right
just
now.
throwing it out there because that's what was on my mind.
Yep, no, I
That's why I asked about the implementation of the actual accessibility fees. Would it be a calendar year from now before we finally, implemented any additional charges are gonna happen right away? So we'll get the document.
And again,
I vote with Dave,
There's all
we've gotta get
sorts
the
of
document
scenarios.
fixed first.
All sorts of scenarios that we could
Well,
discuss.
and on a personal note, our next meeting falls just at,
Yeah, what does it fall on? You sent it in your email.
well,
It's town meeting day, that's why I was gonna ask about that later on
Yeah.
before we met, but our
Okay.
next meeting is March 9th.
Yeah, so we'll have to.
It's the
we'll
day
have to
we vote on, which
Right,
is,
it's the day we
I'm
vote.
I'm a poll worker all day.
Yeah, so that's something I was
We'll-
gonna ask.
You'll
at the
bring that
end.
up later in the
Yeah.
meeting. Okay, 'cause we're
Administrative.
getting late, we've been here 3 hours already, so let's get this thing going.
all right, so, all that being said, I think everybody
No,
has,
2 hours, sorry. Sorry, feels like 3.
I think everything's in the document, I'd appreciate another set of eyes on it, and
Dave's good at that, he likes reviewing documents.
I think Mike Trank can probably, if you haven't looked at it already, I think most of it's pretty straightforward.
Mike, got a question for you.
Okay.
Yeah, the table 8. Why did you pick those 7 or 8 different types of connections to list in that table?
No particular rhyme or reason. It just seemed to be somewhat representative of the type of development you folks see.
Okay, and then I have confusion between those connection types and DES's table 1008. Like the table 1008 has a category under dwelling, it's called private residences, where it's 300 per day
You wanna go, unless you got.
and 150 for,
I don't know.
okay, and that table conflicts with table, the DES table conflicts with table 8. So,
Fortunately, all residential we've got covered, so.
Actually, it is consistent.
go ahead and explain the consistency to me then.
Well, in table 1008, in attachment A, it says, as you pointed out, but it just had it, private residences, 300 gallons per day, plus 150 gallons per day for each bedroom over 2. So
Therefore, a two,
if it's a three bedroom house, and you go by that table, that would be 450 gallons per day, and that's exactly what we're showing in table 8.
Then what's a two-bedroom house, Mike?
300.
300 gallons per day.
So in my comments, I suggested that we strike the studio and one-bedroom example, because all it does is cause confusion. Because we're one treatment unit, whether it's 1, 2, 3, or 4 bedroom. That's just, that's the way the
I would-
ordinance is set up.
I would like table 8, I think where you, Rob, you're headed and I am, table 8 needs to explain only those connections that are not defined in attachment A. Because you could, table 8 should be those connections that are not defined in this attachment. This attachment is state listing. And if we have our
Well,
own,
They're all defined in the attachment. Table 8 was just intended originally to show representative calculations, really, nothing more than that.
So
Is
basically,
that how it's labeled?
Estimating accessibility fees by development type and estimated wastewater flows.
they're nothing but examples.
Right.
Maybe the word example should be there instead of estimated.
It's in the sentence above it, it mentions that they're examples.
Okay, good. Well, maybe it should be in bold type then.
So then maybe what we do is just say 1, 2, 3, or 4 bedroom residential, 450, because then the estimated flows aren't correct.
I agree with the 1 through 4 bedroom, because that compiles them all into one line, and it's just a single line.
thank you.
All right, then you'll have to dash out the estimated flow because it will vary, but the
Don't
treatment
put-
units will be the same.
Treatment units the same, don't give estimated flow, leave it
All
blank.
right. Well, Dave can do that when he sends in his comments to my comments.
Good. I concur with that single formulation of 1 through 4 bedrooms.
But I would like to vote to accept this document next meeting.
Okay, when we establish a date, we'll have that as an agenda item. Okay, I have another agenda item that's not on the agenda. There's an issue down on Rockland Avenue that Corey has been having. Mike may know about this. I will read what I have here from Corey. I received a call from Mark Tessier about the owner of 560 Rockland Avenue. The owner decided to install a sewer service between the two buildings on his property. The owner has already talked about what he wanted to do with the buildings on the property with Mike Yurgo and Town Hall, and was advised by both that he needed to do a TRC meeting before moving forward. He ignored the advice and proceeded anyway. Someone called Town Hall about the work, and Mark went over and told him to stop all work. I went over and looked at the sewer line they installed, and it does not conform in any way to our sewer use rules, and was installed with no permits. For what the owner wants to do with the property, he would be subject to accessibility fees, as well as he has already made aware of that prior work he did. How would you like to respond to the issue? There's nothing outlined in the sewer use ordinance for issues such as this. He included some photographs. The guy has already put the sewer lines in, and he made the connections between the two buildings with no permits and no nothing. So what is the board's advice instructions for Corey on how to handle this?
Shouldn't the building inspector declare the new structure with no certificate of occupancy?
They didn't even apply for a building permit. They didn't even do anything.
They actually came in today for a plumbing permit, and I told them that we are not issuing any permits at this time. So we did not give them that permit.
Plumbing permit or a sewer permit?
No, they came in for a plumbing permit, but we're
All right,
not
well,
giving any permits out at all. But
They can't
Mark
give
wanted
any
me to tell Corey that.
I mean, for that site?
Yes.
Okay.
Okay, I was wondering.
Good. That's how I
Is
hope
the
the town
town
isn't
shutting
shut
down?
We're done with plumbing permits.
So it sounds to me like we need to have an action against this landowner to be required to dig up all the sewer, first of all, to apply for permits, pay accessibility fees, and then install the work in a workmanlike manner. It's in conformance with our regulations, and not allow this person to do that. Now, if we have to go through the building department and ask them for a cease and desist, or whatever the procedures are, I think we need to take affirmative action on this tonight. Do you have that email by chance, anyone? There it is from Corey. And I'll let-
That's the other hang-up
No.
as well. It's true to the billing department.
I understand the building department, but we still have to maintain our authority. And I'm gonna ask Corey to speak, because I kind of overdid it by reading his email to us. Corey, let us know what's going on.
Mark Tessier has been trying to get a hold of this guy for a while, and I sent him an email and trying to get him to respond to either one of us, just to tell him, number one, what he's doing is he's not following the rules, and try to guide him back here. And I guess he had ended up sending an email back to Mark saying that they were gonna stop all work and follow the rules from there on out, but
No,
other
we
than
gotta go
that-
backwards to follow the rules, in my opinion.
Exactly. So he still needs to come in and do TRC, the whole 9 yards, but
Do you know what the other building is that he connected to is for?
Both gonna be warehouses. He's got a three apartment building now. That's what's right across from Cumberland Farms. And he's got a building that they use as a garage. And they wanna convert that to a warehouse with a bathroom. There's a building in the back, they wanna convert that to a warehouse with a bathroom.
So there's accessibility fees due.
Well, it's gonna be $10,000 with accessibility fees, because you got a building in the back, plus you're doing another one in the front. So, yeah, so there's accessibility fees, and I told him that on an email, and he just one did what he want.
And they have
All
to
right.
do sewer permit fees, they have to apply for sewer permit as well.
Well, yeah, you
right?
gotta do it, he's supposed to repair in TRC, and he ducked it twice, so.
Well, I think we should continue to converse with the building inspector before we take any affirmative action at this time, and see if Mark can remedy this through the permit process. But if he remains indifferent to our permits and our requirements, I would vote that we take legal action against the landowner if we have to. I think we have to do what we have to do to make our case, and not allow people to do this kind of stuff. Especially when they were told by Mike, and we were ignored that, well, I'm not doing that. Well, we have to take legal action against this person.
And Mark is following what we said, he is not giving out any permits at all until he get the sewer, they have to apply for the sewer permit before they can get a building permit or an electrical, plumbing, or any of that.
So he'll just build the whole thing out with no
So-
permits and say,
Has
no,
anybody provided him with a written violation?
I don't know.
Mark is,
That's the trouble,
yeah.
What?
that there's no town prosecutor anymore. And Mark was supposed to meet with Derek to find out how they do, because they're not the only ones who are in violation of sewer. I mean, people
I
did
know.
apartments and all that. So there's a stack of them. And it's just, they're not going anywhere. So he's up against, he's up against the wall.
You know, the water department can shut your water off. I wish you could go out and dig up their yard and cap their sewer.
I think we can.
I can confirm that,
Put a plug in it.
I can confirm that the town's legal counsel is available to work with Mark through the building department to file any sort of legal actions or write out any sort of correspondence that may be needed. That's something that I am aware of from discussions with Mark Tessier and Derek.
This is not a zoning code enforcement issue, is it? This is a building conformity
Well, it's
issue.
gonna be zoning code, I believe, too.
It might
Nancy
also-
Larson does have the authority to go out and,
But she's stacked up with that much.
well, then she'll have to work harder, I'm sorry.
It's like,
And I'd say it right to her face, don't worry. I love her, she does her job, but you gotta get it done. So what are we doing? We're waiting on Mark's action at this point, would you recommend, Corey?
Pretty much, yeah.
Okay. So would you keep us apprised of the situation but via email or whatever correspondence method you'd like to use?
Absolutely.
Okay. All right, that was what I had. Now, Lynn, would you like to talk about our next scheduled meeting date?
Yes, our next scheduled meeting date is March 9th, which is the day of our elections. Dave works the polls. So I didn't know if you guys wanted to try to push it out to Wednesday that week, or if you wanted to go out to the following week.
I wouldn't be opposed to moving it one day if we can get the room and if other people are amenable.
If I'm gonna make sure the room's available, but if Wednesday, the 10th is available, can everyone make it that day?
Well, the
I'm
only,
okay.
the only question is if,
You get elected again?
Right.
You're running unopposed, how could you not
I'm
get
not
elected?
unopposed.
Oh, you're not?
Nope.
Oh. Well,
So if you want to start
You're-
over with this with somebody else.
Oh, jeez.
The person doesn't become officially elected until,
They're sworn
Takes
in.
the oath.
until their, the
Sworn in.
period for contesting a ballot ends, and that's Friday after Tuesday.
no, so we can have our meeting.
Wednesday.
You can vote to give yourself a $3,000
A
raise
person
on your
can't
way
be,
out.
a person, on a contested ballot or on a, you can't be sworn in until Friday preceding
Because of the recount period.
recount.
All right,
We assume you're gonna get voted in, don't worry.
thanks for the vote.
Your lovable personality.
Confidence there.
So you want me to check with Catherine to make
See
sure?
if we can
the
have it
room's
on the
available?
the Wednesday after the election,
10th at 6
Yeah.
o'clock,
6 o'clock.
okay.
I'm okay with that.
Question, Mr. Chair, why was Mass Road Crossing on our agenda?
I took it off. That was a confusion.
It's an old agenda.
Yeah, that was one of the first agendas. We thought it was Mass Road Crossing, but as I looked into it further, it turned out that it was Hadley Falls.
Very good, thank you.
Well, you know, it's a good thing you brought that up, Mr. Pierce, Commissioner Pierce.
What do you want
Mast
to know?
Road Crossing is the project across from the villa.
Correct.
When that person was in front of the planning board, I took it upon myself to advise them of the fact that the Villa Augustina's property has a pump station on site, and that pumps under the road into a manhole, and that gravity flows into the main. Their project is going to rip that out in its entirety and replace it with all new structures and all new sewer going to the interceptor. I asked them what their plan was to maintain service for the villa during the entire construction project, because in the event that the villa was rented the day they started digging the ground up, the villa still has the right to have sewer to the interceptor. So I think we should contact that project, Mast Road Crossing, and ask them for a formal plan on how they're gonna maintain the sewer from the villa to the interceptor during the construction process. Because we're obligated to make sure that the Villa Augustina sewer is functional entirely during the entire process.
Could they, on the other hand, could they get a statement from the owners of the former school saying, we have, for a period of 6 months, it'll be confirmed, we'll have no sewer?
If there's an affirmative statement from the owner of the, but what happens if they sell it in that meantime? Is that gonna be a binding agreement?
It would have to be.
It would seem to me there'd be no problem for them to extend the force main from the manhole where it's gonna pump into, put an overland force main to the interceptor if they had to, as a temporary bypass while they do their construction. I think we need an affirmative plan from them on whether it's a statement, as David suggested, or a functional system to maintain sewage flow during that entire construction project.
Didn't the
'Cause
engineer talk about that when they were here?
around the corner, to me, oh, it's gonna.
No, he did. He
And
It
how are they gonna maintain flow? Did they tell us?
that they would coordinate with the owners of the villa. That was their responsibility to maintain the easement.
Well, I don't take them at their word. I want,
Why are we in the business of maintaining somebody else's easement?
because we are the ones that run the sewer system. And we're the ones that are giving them permission to do all this this new work on that project to tie into the interceptor, which involves an existing customer. We have to protect the existing customer in my book. I can't rely on that contractor to say that they're gonna handle that. I don't believe it. I think we need to have some sort of affirmative statement, plan, or document from them to add to the record that they are going to do this, because I just don't, I see it as a problem. And if you wanna outvote me, go ahead and do it, but I think it's a problem for us not to take action on this.
I disagree.
Okay, you're entitled to disagree.
The owner of the property, Mass Road Crossings, they acknowledge that they have a responsibility for a person with an easement across their property. They have to, if they cause an inconvenience for the owner of the former school, then I guess the former school has a civil responsibility to go after some money or something for the damage that's done.
Well, I think we're able to confirm. I don't see any harm in an email coming across saying, hey, when you were here, you had told us that you were gonna maintain flow to the villa. And we just wanna remind you of that fact and to ensure that our existing customers are not interrupted due to your construction activities.
I'll consult with Joanne if you want me to and have, or David can do it, whoever wants to do it, to have
I mean,
Joanne.
isn't that something that would normally be covered in TRC?
No, TRC is how you gonna hook it up.
They're long gone, TRC.
Their plan's been approved.
Yeah.
All they've got,
But
They've only
wasn't
got
that
a-
part of the approval?
But you know what's funny, Dave? The fact is that when I asked them, well, what about the sewerage that comes across from the villa? And they said, well, what's that? We don't know anything about that. Well, then you didn't do your homework. What do you think the manhole's on your property for? Then I said, well, what's over there? They said, we don't know. I said, well, you better contact the landowner and find out. Because I know what's over there, because when I put the water main in from there up Norman Road, I ripped that line in half with an excavator and the pump came on. So you can guess how that went.
Then Tim called me.
I'm not ashamed to admit it, it wasn't marked.
I think you're making too much out of it.
Okay, well, that's great until something happens. So, decide what you want to do and let me know. No action is not doing our job. Affirmative action is doing our job.
Motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn.
I will second it.
Seconded.
Before you do that,
Oh,
Yes.
oh, sorry. Mike Trank, we hear you.
I think that,
okay, good. I just wanted to follow up on the accessibility fee. Yeah, there was a couple of questions that Rob put in. I will address those. The others were kind of suggested edits for clarification. I've already made all those edits. But I did have one question, or I guess it's pretty much a confirmation. It was either at the last sewer commission meeting or the one previous where there was discussion about, the calculation of the equivalent treatment units and whether it would be rounded to the nearest half or nearest tenth. And my recollection of that discussion is that the decision was to round the equivalent treatment units to the nearest half treatment unit. So I put that in the revised report, and I guess I would just ask if Lynn could double check the meeting minutes and make sure that was the case, or
Can
basically to confirm that.
hold on, Mike, can either of you two commissioners confirm what Mike's saying so Lynn doesn't have to bother checking the minutes?
That was my understanding.
Okay.
that's mine too, that it was.
That was the understanding, Mike, so I think we're good.
And that was that's what's in the document. So the only thing that's a quarter is the seasonal use, and that can be correlated over to billing conveniently, cleanly. So if we did it differently, it would muddy those waters, and it would upset Commissioner Pierce because the math would be more intricate.
Okay, Mike, was there anything else?
No, that was it. Thank you.
Okay, then we say thank you for your time tonight, and Selectman Bowen, are you there?
Yep. Chet?
Sorry, I was muted. I'm here.
Thank you for your time tonight.
Sure, thank you.
Okay, Dave?
Meeting's over. I will keep quiet.
We didn't have a roll call yet. You made a motion, and we didn't have a roll call vote on it yet, so the meeting is still in.
Mr. Chairman, what did you, information you find out about the process of purchasing property?
I have not heard back from the town administrator.
Okay.
I left it in his,
Next meeting then. Thank you.
but While we're on that subject, I consulted with the planning director, and that would require that we do a subdivision of that property. So if we're gonna buy that property, we're gonna have to do a formal subdivision of that land, because currently it's easements. If we're gonna own the land, we'd have to apply for a subdivision of the property.
Okay.
So if we're gonna go that route, that's what we have to do.
Put it on the agenda.
I'm reading something here. Oh, okay, I'll read that after. All right, so there was a motion made by Commissioner Pearson, seconded by Commissioner Trapas to adjourn. Roll call vote. Dave?
Yes.
Rob? Yes. Chair votes yes. Thank you. Thank you, Corey. Thank you, Mike.
Yep.
Thank you, Lynn, and thank you, Danielle, for staying so